Hey guys, good evening. Just let me know if I'm audible in the chat. Welcome everyone, whosoever part of our chat today. So we are into our playlist, which is data analysis in 3 weeks, and we're expected to cover the topics related to Lambda functions today. So we were discussing about the functionalities of Lambda and other things. So in today's discussion, we'll be going a bit deep and we'll try to understand some other complex operations of Lambda, filter, map, and all those things. So we'll be doing that. So if you guys can see my screen and if I'm audible, just a quick hello would be really great, guys. So I'm monitoring my chat. Okay, so give me a minute. Right. So I hope I'm pretty much audible. Yes, Akash, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us. Great. So we'll move ahead with our discussion today, that is on Lambda functions, maps, and filter. So we'll be doing those. I'll tell you what exactly filter and map operations in Lambda. We'll be doing that. But again, if anybody is having any concerns, anything from whatsoever we have discussed so far, right? So be it your anything, guys. So please do let me know your concerns. So we'll try to take that. Okay. So anybody is having any concerns whatsoever, guys, we have discussed so far, there should not be any doubts, anything so far, right? So I believe you guys are also practicing questions at home. So any concerns till date? We have covered the basic data types. We have covered so we have covered some other good topics, including our list, tuples. We discussed about dictionaries. We discussed about functions, and we also started with Lambda functions, right? So in the Lambda functions, we did cover the basic functionalities, scalar operations, and then today we'll be discussing about the map and the filter operations. Okay. So I'll also give you a quick recap of whatever we've discussed so far. So do not worry about that. But again, let me give you a quick brief. So to start with, let me introduce myself. So my name is Arpit Jain, and I'm a lead data scientist myself. I have been into industry for almost 9 years into multiple domains. So be it telecom, be it manufacturing, automobile, finance. So I've been into multiple domains, and I've been working as a data science guy. So any concerns, any doubts regarding data science or any of the domains also, please do let me know. I can take the questions. Along with that, I'm also a motivational speaker. So I take industry sessions. I talk to students regarding their career, jobs, placements, right? So if you are stuck, if you need any guidance, any assistance, so please, you can ask those questions also. Okay, so I'll be able to take those questions and we can talk. So do not worry about that. But again, without wasting time, so I'm starting the content, right? So content is all about talking towards my Lambda and the map functions. But again, I'll try to give you a quick recap of Lambda operations. Just give me a minute. Let me pull up the screen here. So I hope my screen should be visible. Right, so I hope my screen is visible to you all. Right, so in terms of functions, we discussed about Lambda functions, right? So we were discussing about Lambda functions. So what are Lambda functions, guys? It's nothing but scalar inline functions, okay? One-line operations which can be used on top of my functionality. So here we have majorly talking about my inline function, so where I can write all of my code logic. So whatever operation I want to perform within my function, if I can write the entire statement in one single line, an inline operation, I can use that as a Lambda function. Okay, so that is one requirement in Lambda function. So you are supposed to write only one line. Okay, so only one line is acceptable. It's an inline function. Okay. So if you are able to convert your entire logic in one single line, then only Lambda function is operable, else not. Okay. And Lambda functions are comparatively faster in terms of execution speed because it does not use the looping logic, which is for, and that is the reason why it is fast. And yeah, so that's how about Lambda. So I told you how to write the same function, for example, squaring of a number, right? So it's nothing but x cross x, right? I can also write a simple square user defined function, and I can write the logic on top of that. At the same time, I can also use Lambda operation. So Lambda operation where I'm using x cross x and then using that on top of it, right? Now, likewise, sum of two. So here I'm using one single operand, so which is one single parameter. But now in this, I'm using two parameters, x and y, right? So in this case, I will be having two parameters, x and y, and that's how we can be using this. So same thing and can be passed in the lambda. So the logic is still the same, guys. So logic is still this one single line, x plus y, right? So I can write it in the lambda function also. So same pass. So here assignment operator. So I have two functions which I'm assigning x and y, and now I'm using x plus y, which is my logic of my function, which I'm doing here. So that is my lambda operation, right? Plain simple. Likewise, I can do it with any number of such logics. So any number of such operations, I can perform it to n number of arbitrary variables which I want to initialize. So this is a very good question which we did yesterday. So we saw many flavors of it, right? So we spent almost 20 minutes on this question, and we saw multiple flavors. So we saw how if and else statement are considered, how if and elif are executed, how if elif and else are executed. We passed multiple conditions, and also we saw the sequential operation on this problem, right? Guys, one last time, if anybody is having any concern, any doubt in this particular problem, please do let me know. Good evening, Ali. Thank you for joining in. So just a quick understanding. If anybody is having any concerns in this particular topic, so I hope you understood this problem statement, right? Or if anybody is having still any concerns, any doubt, guys, do let me know. This is very important, and we need to understand the question, okay? If you are able to understand it, just a quick yes is also fine. Otherwise, if any concern, do let me know. Okay. So, right, now I'll jump towards our today's discussion, which is lambda functions with filter. So what does a filter mean? Okay. So let me quickly show it to you first, and then I'll just print this. Okay. So now how the syntax looks like, and before that, I'll tell you why filters and maps are needed. Okay. So here what we do, so we have an input collection element, be it a list. Okay. And what we want is based on certain condition, it's just like a filter. Filter is like an English literal filter for you. Okay. So what I want based on the whatever condition, whatever expressions I have, when I pass the input collection element, it should apply that logic, it should apply that filter criteria, and after filtering, after applying that filter criteria, whatever remains, whatever passes that criteria should be my output. It just works like a filter. Okay, we filter out an input collection element depending on the filter logic. Okay, that's how the simple meaning of filter is, and we can apply the filter logic on top of lambda. And how do we do that? So filter itself is a function. Okay, so filter itself is a function which is comprising of the parenthesis. Okay, and whatever we write, the logic should be part of my parenthesis here. Okay, and now inside this filter operation, inside this filter function, what I have to write? The lambda operation, right? So again, how we initialize the lambda? We have the lambda operator here. So I mean the lambda keyword here. The argument, so basically my initializer. So my variable which I'm going to initialize, again this variable could be anything, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, X, anything. Okay, so this is not mandatory here. Now after colon, so we have still the colon here, right? So after colon, we generally used to write only one single thing, right? We were writing like what is the core logic which you want to implement, right? But here in filter takes two argument. Okay, so first is my expression. So filter takes two argument. So filter, this entire thing is my one, which is my expression, my filter logic, and the second element is this, which is my filter element which I want to filter out. So basically my input collection on which I want to apply the filter logic. Okay, this is how as simple as this. Clear? Any questions, guys? Are you able to understand this question? Are you able to understand this question? Sorry, are you able to understand this filter logic? At least lingually. So I just want you to understand why filter is used and what is the purpose of filter. Is it making sense, guys? Are you able to understand? Just say a quick yes in the chat. If you are able to understand this. Okay. Meanwhile, I'll also explain you how we're gonna implement this. Okay. So I hope this pretty much logic is clear, right? So why filter is being used. So now here what we are trying to do is, so don't look at the entire formula. Don't look at the entire code right now. Okay. I'll just show you what I want to do. So here, this is my input element. Okay. So this is my input list, which is a collection element. Okay. Now what I want to filter out only the odd numbers out of this. I want to filter out only the odd numbers. So my objective here is what I want to do. So my objective is filter only the odd numbers. So this is I want. Okay, so this is my filter logic. Okay, so Ali says, can you repeat? Yes, absolutely, I can repeat. No problem in that. So okay, so I'll just quickly repeat it. So filter, nothing but it works like a plain simple filter, like an English language. Okay, so what do you do in filter? Filter means if you have a filter, right? So if you make tea, so what do you do? So in the vessel you have entire thing. You have the milk, you have the tea left outs, and then you have the sugar and everything, right? Once you pour on the tea from the filter to your glass, only the liquid, the tea passes out, right? The leftovers of your tea leaves remains in the filter, right? Which you don't want to be part of your the final tea which you're gonna drink, right? So like the same thing here, filter logic is same. So filter means I want to apply a certain filter ka logic, and logic is my logic. So whatever logic I want, okay? So based on that logic, I want only those things to be cleared from that logic, what I want from it, right? For example, like the one I'm showing here. So I have this input list, and now I want to filter out only the elements which are odd. I can do that. I can have this problem, right? So I want to filter out, I want to find only those elements which are odd. I can also do this can be done in multiple ways. It's not the only way in which I'm going to use filter with Lambda. I can use it in I can solve the same problem in any number of ways. There are multiple ways in which I can solve this problem, but I can also solve this problem filtering out the right elements based on the logic using the lambda filter lambda functions. Okay, that is why filter lambda are used. So what is the syntax for that? So filter is the function. Filter is the main function here, right? So this is my function, and filter takes 2 arguments. Okay, so filter takes 2 arguments. First is my expression, my filter logic. It's a core logic of filtration, and the second is my input collection, the sequence object which I have to pass on top of my filter logic, ultimately which will be serving my expression, which will be serving my output. This is what I want. Okay, this is how the syntax looks like of filter. Now how to apply this? So as I said, I want this list to be filtered out with only the odd numbers. I only want the odd numbers from the list. Okay, so how can I do that? So simple. First of all, what we need to find the logic of how to find the odd numbers. Plain simple. First we have to write the logic, right? So what will be the filtration criteria? As we know, we need to find the odd numbers. So in terms of code, how can we write how to find the odd numbers? Plain simple, right? If the number, whatever number is, if we divide this number by 2, and if the remainder is 0, that is even, right? And if the remainder is not equal to 0, it is odd. Very simple logic. So कैसे निकालते हैं? Remainder कैसे निकालते हैं? n% of 2 is not equal to 0, then this is odd. This is a logic, right? So basically मेरा filter का जो criteria है, the filtration logic which I want, this is my logic. This is my expression. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, right? So this is the expression which I want to implement, and based on this expression, I want to filter out the elements which I need, which elements I need? I need the odd numbers, right? So this is the filtration logic. So technically, if I want to apply this logic on top of this syntax, how can I do that? So again, the logic, so the syntax remains the same. So this is actually my syntax. Okay, so I'm just write it here. This is my syntax. So how I'm going to write this? I'm just going to copy paste the same thing here. Okay, so now this is my syntax. So filter lambda argument. So argument means the variable which I want to initialize. I can write anything. So for example, I write x. Okay, and this is my logic. So now x becomes my number, right? So this becomes x. So now I want to implement this, right? So my expressions become this, and because it includes some other internal operands as well, it's always good to enclose it in a parenthesis so that it does not get confused. So this is my entire one statement covered under an enclosure. So it looks pretty neat as well, and it does not confuse the operations. This is fine. Now on top of my input collection, what is my input collection here? My list, right? So I'm just going to replace input collection with my list. Plain simple. So now if I want an odd number on top of my this collection element, this will be my filter lambda function. Clear? Any questions in this, guys? Any questions? Any questions in this, guys? Anybody is having any questions? I'll also explain you what I've done here. So I've added an additional complexity here, but I'll show it to you how exactly does it look like and why I added that. Okay. So now if I run it, now look at this. So ultimately, after doing this filter operation, eventually the output is nothing but a filter operand, right? It's a filter object which I created, right? I did not get the output here. So ultimately output is what? The numbers, right? So maybe 5, 7, 55, 13, 91. These are my numbers. These are the numbers which I want as my output, correct? So to get this output, so when I ran this, what did I get? I just got a filter object, right? So you can see this filter at the memory location where this object is located. So it's more like a filter object which got created, but ultimately I did not get the output, right? Am I seeing the numbers as output? No, I'm not seeing the output numbers here. So how can you see the numbers, right? So now I have to convert this filter element entirely into some readable format, right? So now if I want the list, the numbers to be printed in form of a list again. So I can enclose this entire thing again into a list, right? So now what I did here, now I don't want the output to be in the form of a filter object, rather show me the list of those elements. This is what I did, okay? Now if I run it, I'll get the elements here. 5, 7, 55, 13 and 91. Clear? Any questions here? And what I did here in this case, just look at this. What I did here is plain simple. So what I did the same thing which I just showed it to you here and saved it to a new list. The selected list which I want to create, and I printed that selected list. Now you have the output. Clear? Any questions, guys? Any questions in this? So this is how my filter lambda functions work. Okay. We'll do one more question in this. So don't worry, we'll do one more question. But is the point clear? Are you able to understand this concept? Any doubts, anything which you want me to clarify? Wonderful. Great. Thank you so much, Akash. Thank you, Ali. Great. So let's proceed. This is pretty much fine, right? Now let's take one more question. It should be here. Yeah. Okay. Now look at this question here, guys. So I have another list. Okay. This time I have a list, and instead of having numbers, I'm having strings. So list of strings, right? So list of words or characters, or not a character, list of words or the strings, right? Now look at the question very carefully. So now what I'm doing is I'm writing again a filter operation, okay, on top of lambda, and I've initialized the argument x, and the condition of that filter logic is this. So this is my entire filter logic, okay, and my collection object is my list, which is this, okay, and I'm printing this into a list object, converting it into a list object and saving into a result, and then I'm printing the result. Plain simple, same logic, right? Now can somebody tell me what will be the output here? Look at this question very carefully, guys. Look at this question carefully and try to take a guess also. It's fine. Try to take a guess and let me know what will be the output here. What does this filter logic mean here? Again, if you have noticed, see again, guys, lambda is again an inline function, right? So whatever logic I'm writing here, for example, this is my logic, right? I'm able to write this logic in a plain single sentence, in a one line sentence, right? If this logic is extending into 2-3 lines, I cannot write this in the lambda. That filter lambda function is invalid. Okay. Still the lambda logic where I'm saying that it has to be a single line function holds true. Okay, this has to be valid anyway. Whether I'm using filter or map or whatever I'm using on top of my lambda, that's fine. But the core logic still has to be the same. Okay. Anybody wants to take a guess on this? Okay, we have a question here from Akash. What does the join function do here? Okay, good question. We will see that. Okay, then chalo, let me explain this operation to you first. Okay, then we'll see the output. Chalo, let's see this first. Okay, let's break this into topics and then see. So now I'll just rather remove this now. Okay, so now what I'm doing is I'm doing basically something like this, dot join, and then I'm doing reversed x. Okay, so this is my core operation which I'm performing. Correct me if I'm wrong. This is the core operation which I'm performing, right? Now what does reverse mean? So ultimately when I'm passing this over the list element, so it is taking the iteration of that, right? So at the item element 1, then 2, then 3 will be passed on top of this x, because x is nothing but my individual sub elements of my collection object, which is list, right? So now let's take one example here. For example, let's take boat. Okay. So I'm doing dot. So here what I'm trying to do is instead of x, I'll be passing boat here. Okay. Now, first of all, let's break it even further. Okay. So what does this reversed of boat give me? Right. So always the code is getting executed inside out. So whenever you're reading the problem, reading the function, right? So the functions always get executed inside out. So first this will be executed, then join will be executed, then x will be saved on top of that. Okay, so this is how I'm doing it. So first of all, reversed of boat. What did I get? A reversed element here. And if I have to see, so now here, now look at this. So I have this reverse element. So basically what it does, it has just reversed the elements of my boat. So if my boat is this, it has eventually would have returned T, it has eventually would have returned T B, T this, and then separately as B, and then it has returned A, and then it would have returned T, like this. Okay, so no T, my bad, T A, क्या बोल रहा हूँ मैं, O B. Okay, this it would have done. So reverse of your characters, but these are not joined. Okay, so it would have returned in a single space element, single characters. That's what it would have returned internally. That's the logic of reverse. Okay, now to get it to again join these elements, to again make this as a single element. So if I let's try to say the print of this, if I get list of this, right? Yeah, look at this. So eventually what did I get? I got my individual elements in the reverse order. So T, A, O, B. Did you see? So I'm seeing the reverse element is basically giving me the characters in the reverse order. Okay. Now to make this as a single word, so like this boat, right? I need to find the reverse of this. So as a string. So what can I do? I can simply join them. So join will join these into one single word. Okay. And also in the join, what is my join condition I'm using? So here there are two ways. So what it did here, so now look at this. So now dot join. Okay. So join, how I'm supposed to join? I'm supposed to join character by character without having spaces, right? I just want to attach them as it is. So I'm just giving nothing here. So there has to be no space in between. If I use this, I'll get TAOB. And if I add a space here, for example, a space here, I'll get T space A space O space B. If I write a special character like say dollar here or @ I'll get T @ A @ O @ B. You got it? So this is how I'm going to join the individual sub characters, which are the reversed sub characters of my boat here. Okay, this is why reversed function is used. Got it? But I want I want this to be joined as plain simple without having any space, right? So I'm just going to give a plain character there, so nothing, so TAOB. So now what it did, this operation basically, it just reversed the word here for me. You got it? It just reversed the word. And now what I'm doing, I'm comparing X with the reversed of my word. This is what I'm doing. So equal to, double equal to means I'm comparing this original X with the reverse of my word. You got it? Now is this clear? This is what I'm trying to filter out here. Okay. Now can somebody tell me what will be the output here? If I run this, what shall be my output? Quickly guys, are you able to understand this problem now? So ultimately, what this function is expecting you to check if my original variable X is equal to the reversed of my X. So it is checking for the palindromes basically. Did you get it? It is just checking for your palindromes. If you read the word from left to right is equal to your word right to left, right? Yes. So if your word is equal to the reverse of your words, then only keep that, else remove it. So filter out only those words if it can be read the same way anywhere, left to right or right to left. Reverse order is also the same word. So for example, kayak, look at this. Look at this word, kayak, or radar, right? R-A-D-A-R. If you reverse this, again R-A-D-A-R, same thing, right? Or if you read kayak, so K-A-Y-A-K, even you read it from the opposite, K-A-Y-A-K. It's a palindrome words, right? Same thing. Right? You got it? So we are trying to figure out if my word can, if the word is same as it is, or even when I reversed it, right? So for example, look at this. So I have my word kayak, for example, right? So let's try to run this up. So if I do this, and instead of this, if I pass, say, kayak, the output is still the kayak, right? You got it? Clear? Okay, we have a question here from Vasant. He says, why you use list, you don't print reverse function? Yeah, I mean, if you print a reverse function, right, it won't give you the results. Look at this. So if you print this, right, it'll still give you the print object. I mean, sorry, my bad. It'll still give you the reverse object. Okay. So, I mean, I try to show it to you, I mean, as an output. So to see an output, I'm converting the reverse object to a list object so that you can see the output. That is why I did. But again, when you run the code, you don't do that, right? So because ultimately this will be using the logic of join internally. So this, I mean, to just see the results visually, I did using the the list. So otherwise it is not needed. So don't get confused by that actually, right? Make sense? Right. So now here, if you run this, my output will be kayak, radar, and rotor, right? So now in this case, what did I mean? I filtered out the elements, I filtered out those strings from the list where the strings can be read same way from left to right and from right to left. Okay. So this is what this code is doing. Clear? I hope this is making, so I'm trying to introduce every new function in every new example which we see, right? So because anyway, we cannot cover every function in such a short time, but I'm trying to introduce you to different functions and how this can be used. Okay. Cool, guys. So let's take, or we'll take one more question maybe later. Let's try to jump to map operation, okay? And then I'll tell you how map works. So then maybe depending on the time, we can take one or two more examples. So, okay, cool. So, right. So I hope you guys are able to understand. Any questions, guys? Ali, Akash, Vasant, anybody? So please do let me know in the chat, okay? So I'll take that. But again, moving to map function in Lambda. So what is the, why map is used first? Let's try to understand it, okay? So Lambda function, look at the Lambda function. If your if your list has say 10 elements, right? And you pass that list into certain filtration criteria. So ultimately, the whatever output list you will get, the number of elements on the output list will be lesser compared to my input list, because that is the objective, right? I mean, it would be either same or less. It cannot be, same every time, because that is not the logic, right? Ultimately, you expect some of the unwanted elements to be moved out, filtered out, right? So ultimately, filter you could have the number of elements at the output which is lesser than your input number of elements, right? That is one thing. Now here, this is what my objective of, this is how my the input filter function works like. But in map, what we do is we convert the entire list, the input list, into some other elements. For example, what I'm trying to do is, here my objective is, I have this element. Now what I want to do is, I want to multiply 2 to each of my element in list. Now look at the difference in the problem. So I'm not saying that filter out any word, filter out any element. I'm saying that apply this logic, multiply each element of your list by 2. Okay. So I'm not filtering out anything. I'm just transforming or mapping my existing list into some other form, right? And how I'm doing this? By logic here is, I'm going to multiply each element by an integer 2. I'm doubling the integers. I'm doubling the elements here, right? So this is what the map function does. So map, what you do is, you transform the existing collection object into something else, and that transformation logic is what you provide in the Lambda expression. You got it? Whatever you want this list to be converted into, you will be writing that logic in the Lambda expression. But here, remember, the number of elements, so the length of your the collection object will never change. So the length of your collection object will remain the same both in the input and the output operation, or output collection object. The length will always remain the same. Clear? Any doubts, guys? Any doubts? Anybody is having any concerns? Any doubts? Guys, to let me know if anybody is having any concern. So here I'm applying the same thing, okay? So again, look at this. So the syntax still remains the same. Syntax is still as simple as a filter. So here again, we have a map operation. So instead of filter, we'll be using the map function, okay? Inside map, we'll be having 2 arguments as similar to my filter. So the first argument will be my lambda expression. So here will be lambda, keyword lambda, and then I'll be having my argument which I'll be initializing, and then I'll be having the expression here, right? As simple as that. Now my second element, will be my collection object. Okay, simple. Okay, chalo. Let's try to apply the same expression to my function here. So सबसे पहले we have to figure out what is the expression here, right? So expression is, I want to multiply each element by 2. Simple, this is simple. So what we want to do here, what will be the simple? So x multiplied by 2, x multiplied by 2. This is what I want to do, right? Or whatever number, I want to multiply that number by 2. This is what I want to do, right? Simple as that. So now convert this logic into this entire code. How will you do that? So the syntax remains the same. So map, and then I have a lambda argument. So I'll initialize with again x, same thing. So I want here x multiplied by 2, and the collection object I have list. So this list I'll be passing it entirely here. So this will be my, so this is my core logic which I want to implement, right? So again same thing, so if I again run it like this, I'll again get a map object. So I won't be getting I won't be able to see the numbers at the output. So ultimately how we'll be seeing it, we either convert into whatever form I want. So for the simplicity's sake, I'll convert into a list and I'll see the output. So now can you see this? All of my elements, 5 became 10, 7 became 14, 12 to 24, 55 to 110. Likewise, all the elements got doubled. So here also in the input list you have 7 elements, and here also you have 7 elements. So the number of elements did not change. Rather, you transformed completely your elements into something else. And that something else is what we'll be writing here in the logic. It would be anything again, right? So unless and until you are writing that logic in a single line sentence, that is purely fine. You can write anything, whatever you want. Okay, so depending on your requirement, you can write any logic. Yes, but make sure that since it's a lambda function, so you have to fit the entire logic in a single line. If you cannot fit the entire logic in a single line, then that logic is not acceptable here. You have to use the standard for loop and then whatever other ways you want to use for conversion process. You cannot do with that with lambda. Clear? Simple. ठीक है, सेम चीज मैंने यहाँ पे करी हुई है. So look at this. So what I did here, so same thing. So I mean, look at this. So what I did, I converted this list into same thing. So I saved this into a mapped list kind of a thing, and I printed this mapped list, and I got the elements which I wanted to see. So I have 10, 14, 24, 2004, something like that. So right, clear? Any questions here? Okay, let's do this one more question. Chalo. I'll take this for example, and then here, right? Now look at this. So what I'm trying to do here is, I'm trying to make, I'm giving an input as my, the temperatures between Celsius and Fahrenheit, right? So I'm giving the temperature values in Celsius, okay? So these are my Celsius numbers, right? And now what I'm doing is, I'm creating a mapper object, so where I'm converting the writing the logic of converting this Celsius number into Fahrenheit, right? So what is that logic? So 9 by 5 multiplied by my Celsius value plus 32. This is the logic, right? So we know that it's like the formula of Celsius to Fahrenheit conversion, right? So if you have to convert Celsius to Fahrenheit, it's like 9 by 5 into your Celsius number plus 32. That's what we do. Okay. So I wrote the same functionality here. Okay. So now, because I wanted to convert this into Fahrenheit, right? So I wrote this. So it will be taking the individual sub-elements from this part and now applying this formula and then doing the Fahrenheit. So if I do this, now I simply got my entire Celsius numbers, Celsius temperatures got converted into Fahrenheit, right? So this 39.1 is 102.38, 37.5 is 99.5, 38.3 is 100.94, 36.9 is 98.42, 37.1 is 98.78, right? So plain simple logic. Simple, clear? Again, good thing is, guys, just look at the below code. Okay, look at this below code. So now what I want is, so this is the operation which I want to perform, right? So what I can do is, I can ultimately write this under a user defined function as well. So what I did, I created a separate user defined function, Fahrenheit something, okay? And now here I'm passing a temperature value. I don't know what this is, so I'm just passing this as an element temperature, and I've returned the same calculation which I wanted to perform here. Okay, so I just returned the same calculation here. And now what I'm doing is, inside the mapper, I'm calling, instead of calling this, I'm calling this Fahrenheit function directly. Got it? Clear? This is also another way of writing the mapper or even the filter function. I can write my own UDF and then pass it over my mapper or filter function. I can still do that. That is still an option. Does that make sense to everybody? Is it clear? Any questions, guys? Any questions from anywhere? Let me know if you're able to understand this topic. This will be our base for subsequent codings, guys. So let me tell you, there are really interesting things coming up. So this month, from April 24th to April 28th, we are planning a 5 days boot camp. Okay, so as soon as we finish this playlist, we are planning to have a 5 days boot camp. In that 5 days boot camp, we're gonna be doing a quick succession and we'll be introducing you to a machine learning as well. Okay, so that 5 days boot camp is the place where you will be able to see, we'll be stretching it for multiple hours as well. So we will be doing the boot camp on top of your individual topics. So like we'll be doing it on Python, we'll be covering data science, we'll be covering statistics. So all the needed tools and kit, we will be covering that in the boot camp coming from 24th to 28th. So please save the calendars in your phone, right? And then we will be meeting on boot camp. And very interesting thing, so we are going live for data science from April 9th. Okay, so starting from 9th of April, registration will be opening for that. So there will be a dedicated class for data science live. Okay, so that's gonna be extending to maybe 20 odd weekends. So 20 odd classes. So we'll be doing classes on Saturdays and Sundays. So 10 odd weekends, roughly 2.5 months. So in that 2.5 months will be so every weekend we'll be having 2 to 3 hours of class. And we will be covering some specified designated topics on data science. Okay, so we will be covering some really interesting topics, and we'll be doing machine learning, we'll be doing statistics, we'll be doing web scraping, we'll be doing a live project, direct project end to end. We'll also be doing a lot of other interesting things in that. We'll also be covering deep learning topics in that. Okay, so guys, do stay tuned with us. So there are some really good things coming up in Geeks for Geeks channel. So as you know, we are into the playlist of data science in 3 weeks. That's going to be a promo for that. So as soon as we're going to finish this playlist, we will be jumping into a boot camp that is going to be of 5 days, 24th March to 28th March. And soon after that, we'll be going live pretty much from 9th of April. Okay. So that's how the calendar looks like. And that session, whenever we'll be going live, that will be extending for around 2.5 months. Okay, and meanwhile we are also planning to launch another playlist where we'll be covering 2 different topics. First is your resume preparation, like your interview preparations in terms of questions and how to practice and all that. And also meanwhile we'll be starting another playlist for lead code. So lead code and the hacker ranks, where we have the questions. So we'll be looking to solve some really good questions based for your interview. So we'll be doing the Python and the SQL questions, maybe according to the requirement on lead code as well as HackerRank. Okay. So these all are planned, guys. So these are all planned, and we have the dates for few things which I have told you for the boot camp as well as for the data science live sessions, right? But again, for the resume preparation, the interviews, and your coding questions, we'll be going live. We'll be starting another playlist for that. Okay. Any concerns, guys? Any questions from whatever we have been discussing so far? Please do let me know. Maybe we can have a couple of more minutes, and I'm okay to take any questions, guys. Anything which you want to discuss, are you able to understand? Any feedback, any suggestions? Please do let me know. Any questions, guys? Any last moment questions? So I hope I'm making sense to everybody, right? Any suggestion is also more than welcome, guys. So any feedback if you have, what content you exactly want to see, so you can let me know that. So maybe I can prepare the content accordingly. So here we have certain, certain set of things which is planned, right? So we're gonna be anyway meeting tomorrow, same time, and then we'll be seeing how things come. But for tomorrow, the planned session is for file handling. So we'll be doing the file handling with Python, and for that we'll be seeing how we can load up the files, some basic analysis on top of that. So we'll be doing the file handling with Python session tomorrow. Okay. So we have a question: are tuples more efficient than lists in Python? When you say efficient, I'm assuming efficiency in two ways. First is computational wise, right? So it takes less time for computation. Second is errors, right? So there are less prone to errors, right? So efficiency can be just in two ways. So in terms of speed, computational speed, I would say both are equally same, because there is no difference in list and tuples in terms of computational speed. And the second, in terms of error handling, yes, this is more robust. So Python, list tuples are more robust in terms of error handling. So why and how? Because tuples cannot be mutated, right? So in case by any mistake, by any chance, somehow a code is kind of overwriting an existing list, or kind of manipulating the elements of the list. So this is how tuples, if you use tuples instead of list, right, you're gonna be reducing that chance of overwriting and all that. So this is where tuples becomes efficient, but where that you don't want the existing list to be hampered, to be tampered, right? So in this case, yes, this becomes helpful. But in general, if you ask me efficiency in terms of computational speed, there's no such difference in that. Okay, Akash? Cool, guys. Any other question? Any last moment questions? Cool. So if that is good, so let's meet tomorrow, same time, 10 p.m. And then we'll be discussing about file handling. So tomorrow we'll be discussing on file handling with Python. Okay. See you tomorrow, guys. Thank you so much. Have a good evening. Happy learning. Bye-bye.